Hello and welcome back. If you're listening on my podcast, this is Supernatural. And if you're listening on Jake's, welcome to Regenerate. It has been a while, but we are back for another fun conversation. And today we're going to zoom out a little bit and weave the thread between some of the lesser acknowledged aspects of health and how they play into the bigger picture, because there's a lot of emphasis on things like diet, supplements, fitness, biohacking, but a lot of times these things are kind of viewed as separate. And I think in both of our experience, there is so much more that goes into living a healthy, vibrant life and experiencing breakthroughs on all levels, whether that be physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. And in reality, none of these things truly are separate. They are all interconnected and they're all essential in the overall blueprint of living your best life. So with that, it's great to see you, brother. I'm super excited for this conversation. It's been too long, but I'm pumped to be back. So do you have anything that you would like to open with?
Yeah, man. Other than I'm super stoked. I was actually editing those that have been watching my channel. I edited, oh, more so, it was already edited. I just posted it. The video we did months ago on the Essene Gospel of Peace, and that was already on your channel back when we recorded it around half a year ago. And I don't know what happened, man. I always wanted to post it, and it just kept going down the line of things I needed to do. And I was listening to it, and I was just thinking, man, we need more of these conversations. I need to hear more conversations from Chad. I want to have these conversations. I know you've had a big trip recently to Egypt. You've uncovered some really amazing things there. And that's, I think, really what sparked our interest in and got us reconnected again to make more of these videos. And guys, whether you're listening on Chad's channel or my channel, we'll be making these much more regular. There's so many more facets and elements to health outside of diet, and I think when we can have a broader view of really what is behind the curtain of the physical world, what is behind the curtains of physicality. Anyone that's listened to Dr. Morse's spiritual teachings, and any spiritual teaching for that matter, is often looking at the non-physical aspects of reality. And I think that's going to be an overarching part here. And the fact that you've been to one of the places I've really wanted to go to in my life, Egypt, this place of deep spiritual and human evolutionary significance. There's no matter where you're from in life, no matter what your job or whatever it is, we cannot we cannot deny the significance and the intelligence of the Egyptian cultures and what transpired there. So little do we know. And I think by delving into this aspect, we can tackle an area of the healing journey, if you will, the journey of being a human being that is ultimately the conducting forces behind physical things. And I think it's such a beautiful, broad conversation which can go in so many areas. But I think we're going to have an awesome conversation today, Chad, and I hope the listeners really glean some wisdom and some a new perspective from this conversation.
Yeah, you nailed it, man. And I think what the both of us are really after is, like you said, what's underneath the things that we're doing? Like, why are we actually doing the things that we're doing? Why does diet matter? Why does lifestyle matter? And when you kind of capture the unifying thread in the non-physical sense, like kind of the operating system of reality, and you start to grasp why we're doing these things and taking these actions, it starts to make a lot more sense. And you start to find that you can kind of guide yourself in every area of your life and take this understanding and apply it in new ways. And the more that you continue on this journey, I think the more that you see that everything really does tie together and everything matters. There isn't anything we do that doesn't matter, or that isn't connected to every single other aspect of our life.
Yeah, I wanted to echo something there, Chad, that I just heard it yesterday on one of John Rose's videos. Anyone that is aware, he's someone that's done a lot of juice fasting, and he's done a lot of research into Greek philosophy, the Greeks, and people from different areas of health, like natural hygiene and traditional naturopaths. And something that I forget who it was either Herbert Shelton or one of these folk. He said that when it comes to diseases or disease in the body, there's a disharmony, of course, but we can't see it as something separate. And look at the perspective that we have now. You have a problem, and you're diagnosed with a problem, or I've got this sore shoulder, not understanding that everything is connected. Nothing is isolated in the human body, and ultimately nothing is isolated outside. Everything has some web connection, and whether it's on literally the most zoomed in level and the most zoomed out level. And that's the beautiful nature of this is you'll see the same way even with trees. You look at a sapling of a tree, it's essentially just a mini version of the larger thing. We have these different degrees of realities that aren't exclusive. And I think that when we see that there's this overarching connection of we may be unique, but we are all connected, I found with clients, man, that we can feel so alone in a journey of change in our lives, and to have a conversation like this for people to see, wow, there's actually far more under the surface, behind the veil, that I sort of felt, but I don't really know how to articulate. And I hope that we can bring some articulation and understanding to things that we innately as human beings are already aware of, but we just don't know how to articulate them. I think that's why I'm excited for this conversation today, bro, because there's this other layer, like you said, this other level that people is just not discussed enough. Everything's like the diet, the calories, the this, the that, and it's just we get lost. It's too much. And once we get to the point of we're eating, Chad and I adhere to like a high fruit diet, this kind of thing. Other videos we've done to discuss this. Both channels we discuss this separately, but there's a reason why. And energetics is a big part of that, and that part we haven't really delved into. But it's not just food; it's a lot of other things as well. It's everything at the end of the day.
I love that you brought this up because, you and I are both big into physical healing and physical health. And yes, the diet is a huge part of what we do. It's a huge part of the outcomes that we see in this physical world. But the more that I learn and the more that I experience with myself, with clients, the more that I realize that what we see physically is just kind of the tip of the iceberg. It's just the outer manifestation of much deeper things. And I really believe at this point that, without exception almost, that every symptom is emotional or spiritual or mental in origin. Yeah. And it's just these things that manifest in this hologram, because the physical reality really is just the holographic projection of much deeper things. And I think the more that we as a society can come to an understanding of that and learn to accept that, as challenging and as strange as it may seem, our reality is very strange at the end of the day. Yeah. And I think this is going to take us so far as a species and in empowering people to really take control of their health and their life and create an experience that they truly want to have, that's fulfilling, that's joyful, that's vibrant. So with that, I think, as you mentioned earlier, I'll kind of start this off with my own trip to Egypt and some of the things that I learned there, because I think this will really be a unifying thread for our whole conversation. Yeah. So for those of you who haven't been following along with my work, maybe you're on Jake's channel, but this past January, I had the chance to spend about 10 days in Egypt, traveling up and down the Nile. We had an amazing group led by the incredible Regina Meredith and Sarah Bressman-Cosme, and just a group full of true students and seekers and people who were eager and hungry to learn. And it was just a group that I've never experienced anything like that. It was by far the most powerful, most transformative experience that I've ever had in my life. So if any of you guys ever have the chance to take a trip like that, don't hesitate. Don't raise an eyebrow because of the cost or anything like that. Like I look at it and it's like I would have paid 2 or 3 times what I did, because those are the experiences that they change your life and they change your whole outlook and your entire trajectory of where you're headed. So it's so much more than like the money and the logistics. So just a word of encouragement. If any of you do get a chance like that, don't hesitate.
Take it.
Do it. It is so worth it. But one of I think the biggest takeaway for me, kind of the meta lesson that I learned just traveling through the temples seeing the pyramids, these amazing, incredible, magnificent structures that these people built. Like, pictures can't even do it justice.
Yeah.
I teared up because just the beauty and the scale of these buildings. And not only that, but the energy inside of them. You go in these places and they transform you from the inside out. The energy and the consciousness is so high, and all the temples have kind of a different personality. They're all working on different parts of you. But the thing that I learned just from taking that initiatory journey up the Nile is how much respect and appreciation that the Egyptian culture had for human transformation. They understood how human beings worked. They understood that all of us are here on this evolutionary journey to experience ourselves, who we are, who we're becoming, what we want to expand into. And these temples and this entire system that they developed was designed for that purpose, to help you step into that, to help you remember and realize who you are as a spiritual being in this physical world. And that's the true power of this system that the Egyptians built. But they weren't after these immediate outcomes. I think in our society today, you look at it and everybody just wants the magic pill or the drug, or they want to take the injection, the GLP-1s to watch the pounds fall right off and not really change anything truly about their life. And it would be great if that's how life worked. I'm sure we would all love if that's how it was. But unfortunately, and we've talked about this before, Jake, is that anytime you try to cheat nature, there's always a blowback.
Oh, yeah.
You never come out on top. You can't win with that.
No.
And the Egyptians understood this. They understood that the development of each of us as a person, as a soul, it occurred over very long periods of time. And so it wasn't uncommon for people to spend, an entire lifetime in one temple, or many lifetimes for that matter, in a single temple, just developing one part of themselves, one part of their energetic or emotional life. And then when they had mastered that lesson, they would move on to something else. But it wasn't this instant gratification culture that we see today. There was so much reverence and respect for the transformational process. And I think that was really my biggest takeaway, is that I think in the personal growth and health space today, we need to incorporate a little bit more of that appreciation and the responsibility for our own journey, and to know that this is meant to unfold over time. The evolution of our health, of our spiritual life. It's not meant to be the flip of a switch where we have everything figured out. That's kind of, in my mind, the reason that we incarnate into this world, is to have that experience of unfolding and flowering. And I think that's really the beauty of it. And we have lost some of that. So, in terms of, I think, you and I, what really brought us together and what allowed us to connect so deeply right away is that both of us in our life and working with other people, yes, we do value physical health and physical healing. But at the end of the day, we're about, what does that empower? What does that make possible? What do we get to live and experience, and what people can we impact because of that? And I think we both take that view of, that overarching view of life, of we're here to serve and to experience and evolve and expand and just be the best version of us. And this is a lot of what the Egyptian culture really placed emphasis on, as well as creating just these radiant, illuminated spiritual beings over long periods of time. But eventually these were the people who they would entrust to lead the other people and be the priests and the priestesses and the leaders of the civilization, and to steer the direction of the entire culture. And so I think that's the vision that so many of us have, the vision of a better world where people are truly in recognition of their own power, holding a level of coherence where we can lead others and guide others and support others, And I think that this is really what's brought the two of us together and made our work so compatible and made possible conversations like this, is because we value and we emphasize these same things. So that was kind of my meta takeaway from Egypt, but I would love to hear anything that you have to say on that, and, you know, just pulling in things that you've experienced working with real people and clients,
Yep.
and seeing results.
Yeah. No, I love hearing that, Chad, because you can just see that, you know, when you see something amazing, that the photo is not even half of the reality of what you're experiencing. And when you're standing in a place, or you're in the presence of another culture for that matter, just being in Western cultures, that sort of energy, we all know what it's like to be in a room, to be in a place, and the energy feels off. Maybe someone is just sort of vibing in a weird way. You can really pick up on this. Most people can relate to that. And so to extend that to the food, to building structures, the way the geometric structure, why they made the pyramids in a certain mathematical equation, there's a lot unknown, but there's a lot that's become more known because of, you know, I know Graham Hancock was doing some things. He got ridiculed quite a lot because he's coming and looking objectively at things. We've got other independent researchers. I forgot the other guy, but he's the guy with long hair and the beard, and he Carlson, Randy Carlson or something like that. I think that might be the guy. But there's a lot more independent researchers thanks to the internet. We've got people doing these things. I think is Bright Insight, Jimmy. He spent time in a lot of these temples and places to go and experience firsthand. Don't just believe what you see. Go to these places, feel the difference, and see what the takeaway is. And I love your takeaway there, Chad, around the reverence and the appreciation and understanding for the, what I would call, to echo Alan Watts, I took a note of this, the degrees of awakening, the degrees of us coming out of a darker period. And a part of that is to feel the energetic shift of things, either through lifestyle, moving to a new location, noticing your friend groups change. These are like real tangible ones that people relate to. Because you go, oh no, I don't really vibe with that person anymore. The caliber of conversation is just gossip, and I don't really want to do that anymore. I'm moving out of that, and you'll notice these things will change. So real examples of this, chat, is I have clients that are shifting through physical changes, and they're beginning to notice that their gravitation around who they hang out with, the friends, family, the environments, they just don't want it anymore. And you see some of them just with glee, they go and go through that acceptance process. With others, there's big resistance. There's this holding on. It's like the older energies are keeping you down. They want you to stay there. And you look at fear. Fear has its own energy. What is one of the biggest things of fear we see in individuals nowadays is that it blocks you. It stagnates you. You stop. So fear comes in, doubt kicks in, you're not moving. That's an energy. That energy takes over your whole being. It takes over the rational mind, and it just prohibits you from progressing. And I need to coin this term, man, because it just hit me the other week. I was going through some deeper emotional, what I call emotional precipices. These are precipices we all get to. I've been listening to the hero's journey, stories of Odysseus, and these ancient stories of these trials and tribulations we've got to go through. And in a way, those tribulations are physical most of the time. Like it's going through a physical feat. That's a big emotional challenge in the mind, which is shifting, which is essentially getting your physical body to shift into a new way of being, while your non-physical, the emotional, the energetic side is also shifting. They're both two different tracks that need to go simultaneous, but most of us, we're in completely different spots with those. And what I realized is with people and with clients alike is if we don't have the trust or the faith in that process, that's number one. We've got to change the ultimately the energetics in our mind, the way we think. We've got to have trust in this process. And the next one, if we don't have this, we won't move through fear, is courage. So I've realized these two are literally interlocked. They have to be interlocked. And I've noticed times before where someone has had courage, but they haven't trusted the process, or someone has had faith and trust, but they've had no courage. Fear has still been really strong. They've seen something work. I know that can work. I saw that person do it, but I couldn't do it. That's a very common one we have nowadays. I'm too old to this. These are thought patterns. We may only see them as thought patterns or ideas, but these ultimately are frequencies. The same way if you put in music, we've already seen through The Secret Life of Plants, that book, They played not even heavy metal or death metal music or modern pop music. They played rock and roll music, which nowadays was relatively soft, comparatively speaking.
Yeah.
I've been through the big heavy metal scene growing up in high school, went to big heavy metal concerts, death metal and these kind of things, deathcore. Anyone that's listened to this music, I would be hard pressed to call it that, but these disharmonious frequencies, when plants were exposed to them, they would die before they could grow away from them. And then they played them classical music. These plants would grow around the speaker. They would go intertwining. They'd have new geometric growth patterns. And this is just from the frequency of sound. So now when we pull back and we go, okay, well, what else is frequency? Everything. So everything is frequency at the end of the day. And I think this is something we spoke of, Chad, and I want to reiterate it when we were discussing about doing this video. And I've lived in this spiritual community with Hare Krishna people, beautiful people, the Hare Krishna people don't push things on you. They let you be. You do yoga of service of yoga. Like yoga, there's so many forms of yoga. One of them is service. It's not just being on a yoga mat. There's many, many forms of yoga. And what I notice is people will often talk about this energetic picture, this thing of energy and all this, but they see it as it's separate to lifestyle. So what they'll do is they'll hyperfixate on meditation and mindfulness and calmness in their physical body through what they're doing or not doing, so to more so that. But then they just eat whatever, and their physical body, you see it declining. But then I experienced the opposite, hyperfixated on lifestyle. I didn't look at the other side of the coin, the non-physical side, the energetic, the emotional side. So I did myself a disservice by not supporting that. And I think by us supporting, we have to support both. We cannot ignore, as you said at the beginning, that there are both of our missions is, physical wellness, spiritual wellness, and growth. But there's two sides to that. And this other side, I think, is so misinterpreted and almost just thrown around, like using terms of this, that, and the other that people use. One is around essential oils, and I know you found some pretty cool essential oils on your trip, which I'd be keen to discuss. But people will get an essential oil from a health food store, and they'll say, "Oh, it's raising my vibration. It's doing this. It's doing that." They're just words. They haven't really experienced the difference, because when you experience a difference with something, just like you noted when you went to Egypt, it hits you like a tidal wave. You can't know something you haven't experienced. So and that experience is a game changer. And I think I want to just end what I'm saying here with echoing Alan Watts. I listened to a lot of Alan Watts growing up, and it's that this awakening we have, this more having awareness to things we didn't have awareness to before. Often it's like it just drops. You have this aha moment, but then that awakening is by degrees. So certain things will come or appear or present themselves to you over time. And it is interesting that us reconnecting for this conversation has come in this fashion, because I've recently been through things emotionally that I've realized the energetic emotional side, the part behind the veil, like I said, that is a seriously important factor, if not more important, because the diet, the lifestyle is quite simple. Principles, it's the application. And that's what I see with clients, Chad. I see people struggle, and I think it's because they're struggling with the emotional side, the energetic side. And I really, I can see this conversation is going to unfold beautifully, because it's going to give some keys. And one of those keys that I really want people to take away from what I just said here is to shift a negative pattern emotionally. You have to have courage. It's not necessarily going to be easy. You look at any great, you don't go to the gym once and now you're just super strong. There's going to be pain, and I'm feeling stiff, I'm feeling whatever. Suck it up. You have to have the courage. You're going to go through that, but then you realize when you eat good food, that doesn't really happen to your body anymore. You're consistently doing this. You've moved through that initial hardship, and then faith or trust in the process. And you'll notice that those two things will shift these other thought patterns you've got, which ultimately are old agreements that control behind that is an energetic, ultimately, frequency that has been governing you, and we can be re-governed by new frequencies that are superior, ultimately.
Yeah, wow. So much good stuff there, man. And I want to go back, because I love that you brought up how change is hard. And the people that you work with, the people that I work with, you and I both, we've all experienced it. It's hard, it's uncomfortable. Anytime you bump up against something new, your body and your mind are going to freak out a little bit because it's unfamiliar.
Yep.
And I just want to acknowledge that and drive that home, because that's a real human experience. And that's something that we all bump up against. And it's important to really take note of that. But like you said, it takes courage to move through. You feel the fear, but your courage ultimately overcomes that. And I think this is really pertinent to this conversation, because what I see a lot of times is when change gets hard, people a lot of times go one of two directions. And exactly what you just said, it's either they will try to fix themselves through the nuts and bolts and becoming so attached to their routines and their habits, and being perfectionistic about things like diet, or they'll go the other way and they'll kind of bypass and try to escape the discomfort in a way through spirituality in a way that might not be as healthy or integrated, in the sense that at the end of the day, we're just trying to escape our own pain and discomfort without integrating the deeper lessons and feeling the emotions through and acknowledging the more human parts. And I think what both of us are really arriving at in our journey and working with others and supporting others in their transformation is that you need both. You have to address the underlying structure that allows for change to unfold naturally. It can't be overly forced and rigid, but it also can't be a form of escapism that happens a lot of times in religion and spirituality. It's got to be a balanced approach of both, of really addressing the underlying causes, a lot of times which are the emotional things and the memory that's stored in the body. But I think really the emphasis that we want to make in this conversation is that all these different approaches we see, they're actually not separate. They're all doing the same thing at the underlying level. Whether you look at diet, whether you look at things like, we'll probably cover in this conversation, things like essential oils and herbs and flower essences, or whether it's the temples and the pyramids and the energy inside of those spaces that they built geometrically, whether it's the space you put yourself in or the people you surround yourself with. It's all the same in that underlying all those things, we're trying to move ourselves to higher levels of coherence. Most of us are very scattered emotionally, mentally. So there's kind of, you can imagine it energetically under the physical layer. There's a lot of static. It's very disjointed, very scattered energy. And what all these things are doing is they're helping us entrain our own energy to more coherent levels of energy so that we can move from incoherence towards coherence. And that's what diet is doing. Like we talk about the power of raw foods and especially fruit. Fruits are the most coherent food, and you get them right from the tree. Yeah. The energy in those fruits, it is so coherent, and that's actually what's doing the healing. It's not, objectively that we're just eating fruit and the body's healing. At an energetic informational level, it's that we're entraining our body to higher levels of coherence. And at higher levels of coherence, things like disease can't exist. Things like, disorders and mental health, they start to go away. Things like imbalanced emotions and depression and anxiety, these are all low coherence states. And as we start to entrain ourselves to higher levels of coherence using diet, lifestyle, relationships, stillness, meditation, oils or other plant essences, there's countless different modalities, and everybody's going to find something at different parts of their journey that work best for them. But at the core, this is what it's all about. It's all about coherence. And this is the theme. I think this is like that's my word of the year. It keeps coming back, coherence.
I love it.
Because that's what it's all about. That's the name of the game. Moving from lower states of coherence to higher states of coherence. And you start to feel that in your body as relaxation, as deeper breath, as energy and vitality and inspiration and creativity and just this clarity as you start to make these changes in your life. So I'd be curious to know kind of how you view this, Jake, and how maybe this has changed over time as you just continue to deepen your understanding and work with people yourself. What's your take on kind of the underlying thread that unifies all these things that we do?
I think I wanted to backpedal slightly because you made a really important point and I had to take a note because I know the way my mind works, I'll forget it. I'll go to another idea. Is the no separation, is this, and part of that is this coherency as well. I really like the way that's the operative word of the year for you, and it's beautiful because it so is, man. And what just came on like a light bulb for me while you were saying that was I've had a client who, and many clients have had this, and I think a lot of humans have this, but a lot of people that go into spiritual schools or spiritual practices, they start to have this view of separation, that I am now godly, I am now above nature, I am separate to my human body, I'm not my human body. Is what you do, if you weren't your human body, someone will come up to you and hit you across the face. You don't feel that? Of course you do. There's physical things that govern this world, this realm, whatever you want to call it. There's physical laws that take place. And I love the way you said there, Chad, that these fruits are doing this work. They're working through you. It's nature working through you. Nature has these trees showing you, hey, come pick me. Secret Life of Plants also showed this. If you have a tree that produces fruit and you don't pick it, the tree actually lowers in its frequency. It stops producing fruit and it'll die. It stops producing fruits. It wants to be picked. But people will, you don't rip a leg off a dog and, oh, that dog wanted its limb ripped off, now it's going to grow 3 of them for you. No, it's not. It doesn't work like that. These aren't consistent with the laws of nature. And the reason why this is so vital is I know there's going to be people listening, and please, if you're feeling some triggering by what I'm about to say, you probably suspect what I'm going to say, is that we got to know that we are from nature and also we are for nature because we are part of it. So that is a really humbling, beautiful thing to witness and to be aware of, because, you know, Professor Spira, one of the coolest dudes in the mucusless diet transition movement, brought Arnold Ehret's work literally from being unknown to most people. He said to me in a video we did, why is everyone trying to escape their physical body as if we're not physical? Why can't we get really on point with who we are as a human race, to the point where we don't have these ailments, these disease symptoms, these problems you spoke of, Chad, where fruits and nature are saying, hey, I'm over here, you can come to me, I'm going to help you heal, I'm going to help your body realign with the laws of nature. That's energetics, that's magnetism, that's physics, that's quantum physics. We've got objective, real world physicists knowing these things. At school we learn about these things. We see chemistry in action. So I see so many people, and I was one of them at one point, where we almost look down on nature, like I am now above, I am godly, I have this overarching power now that somehow, no, those fruits aren't helping me heal, those herbs aren't helping me heal. Yes, they are objectively helping you. The food is either going to help you degrade or it's going to help you rebuild. It's really that simple. And I've noticed with clients, bro, that those that are more westernly or spiritually oriented from maybe some more another life they lived, that's a challenge for them, because they see and they witness, wow, I had all these spiritual practices before, but I didn't acknowledge laws of nature. I didn't align myself with the frequency of nature, that these frequencies are always there. The Essene Gospel points it out really clearly. We did a video on this discussing the Essene Gospel of peace and how that there's just really showing you how to reconnect and align with nature again. That are we really humans? Is it really fair of us as human beings to say that we are somehow above nature? We are directly from nature. There is no doubt about that. And that we have had a beautiful experience to be able to create so many cool things, pyramids, geometric patterns within the structures we make that all have a frequency effect. They all have an energetic effect. But we also really need to just get that fundamental down. So I just really had to nail that home there, Chad, because I've seen it time and time before where people have viewed this separation, like I'm above this. It's like, no, you are a part of it. Get a part of it. Embrace that. Know that nature is there supporting you, and that nature, once you align with that, all the other layers, like on the layers of an onion, that come in from the non-physical into the physical through consciousness, down into the physical worlds, through the astral, the etheric, all of this. Dr. Morse has a great a chart of this showing the consciousness coming down into physical reality. That this is what binds nature. It's these other non-physical forces that bind the laws that govern us. And there's so many layers to that can get so intellectual. We're not going to go that far down, but I just needed to say that, bro, because what you said there was it just hit me. There's no separation. We are interconnected, whether we like it or not. We got to accept that. I've had to accept that the hard way.
Yeah, I think we all have. And you bring up a really good point there too, in saying that this is science. Like, this is physics. This is electromagnetism. This, people will hear others talk about energy and the underlying structure of physical reality and these spiritual principles, and they'll say, oh, that's woo woo and that's pseudoscience, it hasn't been proven. But like you said, this is quantum physics, and science is proving this definitively. So we know this is how our universe works. And so I just want to drive that home, because no matter what language we choose to use, whether that's metaphysical language or energetic language, we're all really talking about the same thing. It's the same principle, that it's all connected, and people have different ways of describing the same underlying principles. And most of these religious and spiritual and philosophical disagreements that we see nowadays, it's really a matter of vocabulary more than anything else. It's people use different language, and then people feel threatened by other people's language, and then we just attack each other because we think we're different, but we're describing the same processes. Yeah. There's just many lenses and many different ways of understanding it. So I just wanted to make that point, and really I love also how you brought up this denial of kind of the physical self and the physical body, and we see this pretty much everywhere. There's so many ways to do this and to try to escape our world. And I don't want this to sound like accusatory in any way, because I do this too. I'm still learning, but it's ubiquitous. It's a human thing, whether you're in religion or other spiritual traditions, or you're escaping your pain through other forms of pleasure. It's what we do as human beings. We want to move away from pain, but I think really the most transformative thing that I've seen in my own journey, and the biggest step to true transformation, is really when I made the leap of faith to start embracing my humanity. And it's like, yes, we're these, spiritual beings who have no beginning and no end, but we're also these physical beings, and we've chosen to step into this physical vessel, and we're bound by the laws of nature and cause and effect, as you so eloquently said. And so we're just not going to escape that. We need to find the balance of both, but it really comes from embracing our human nature, our emotions, our drives, our desires, our pain, our fears, our insecurities, all of it. And to embrace it without judging, without labeling these things as good or bad or desirable, undesirable. It's just, you experience it all and you embrace it, and you feel your emotions all the way through. And for me, true deep transformation didn't start happening until I began that process of really looking myself in the mirror and coming to peace with myself and my humanity. And I think this is, where we all want to get to, is to feel at home within ourselves, to be at peace within ourselves, no matter what we're going through, the highs and the lows, that knowing that we could ride those waves and that we can navigate it. And I think the other thing that I'll say along these lines is, yes, this is the journey, but there's absolutely no need to be perfect right now. And this is a trap that I know I continue to fall into. It's my whole life, I've been very much a person of extremes, and I've had a lot of perfectionistic tendencies, a lot of which I've worked through, but it still rears its head. And I think even when I started this fruit diet, I was in the mindset that I have to be perfect, that if I slip up, I'm destroying my health and destroying my progress and all the hard work that I've put in.
Yeah.
And that's just not, I think, realistic.
No.
Because I know a lot of people who start that kind of lifestyle or any other change that they're taking on in their life. It's we have this desire to be perfect. Most people who willingly undergo this type of deep healing work, it's like we all have that deep drive to be something more and to be something greater. But I think what I am learning right now is it's meant to be a process. And to tie this in with what I learned in Egypt is they understood that this transformational process took years, decades, lifetimes. It was not meant to be an instant thing. And I've just seen myself soften in that area. I've gone from this need to be perfect to, you know what, if I slip up and I eat something that's maybe not ideal, that's okay, because at the end of the day, I've only been on this lifestyle for coming up on 3 years now. It's which 3 years, no animal protein, no nothing like that. It seems like a long time, but in the big picture of decades and lifetimes, that's it's a blink of an eye. It's really not that long. And I know you have been doing this considerably longer than I have. But you know, you're probably in a place too where it's like you're still learning and growing, and you're just on this journey too.
And you made a really good point, Chad, around the softening to yourself and the softening to oneself, because I see this with clients, man. If they go, oh well, if I don't have something that's exactly fruit, then now I'm killing myself, I'm destroying myself. And that was something I personally experienced when I discovered Arnold Ehret's mucus diet healing system. That's what helped me actually become far higher on a fruit diet, where I didn't have the desire or cravings for things that didn't quote unquote serve me as well. And this is because I had this perfectionist mentality. I wasn't compassionate or didn't have the understanding. I didn't have the understanding to be kind to myself, to understand that maybe my energetic, my emotional world wasn't as far ahead as I wanted my physical body to be, as I wanted myself to be. That there's another side to the coin that is also doing work. And I use this analogy with clients. It's very hard to emotionally eat on fruit unless you've got a plate of avocados in front of you. Gosh, that would make me feel so ill. But no one's going to eat grapes or bananas and just we turn to those starchy foods. So when you're coming from emotional eating, anyone that's coached with me, consulted with me, heard my videos, I'm pretty transparent that this is a big part of my history, was seeing that, growing up seeing that, is that your emotional body is being separated from your physical, because there's this emotional debt you start to accrue from all the emotional eating you've done. So you go on fruits, straight away you get this pullback. The rubber band is no longer being expanded, it's contracting, and they're coming together. And what happens is all this emotional debt comes up for repayment. And that can be too intense, too much at one point. So you got to slow it up, and you got to maybe be a little more compassionate with yourself, use some vegetables or use some things to help you get through that. And sometimes use things that aren't as ideal just to get through a hump and a bump in the road. Because as you said, Chad, we have generationally shifted off our a path as a human species. Professor Spira really brought a new awareness to me years ago when I did my first video with him around people become so obsessive over themselves. What about for your kids, the next generations? Because we grew up with having fast food as some part of our diet in some way. Come on, let's have a treat. Let's go to the drive-thru, go to McDonald's, go to Burger King, whatever it is. We grew up with the concept that eating animals was an option as food. But really the beautiful nature, I even asked my teacher, Dr. Morse, this, what do you see humanity becoming beyond the concept of eating animals and destroying ourselves and warring upon one another? A lot of these concepts are foreign. It's like speaking Chinese to someone that doesn't speak Chinese. It's like all gibberish. I don't understand anything. Yeah. But now this frequency changes, the understanding comes in. I now begin to understand. It's like you learn a language, you begin learning Chinese. It's no longer gibberish anymore. The first lesson, you're there going, what's going on? You pick up a guitar for the first time. What is this? I'm meant to use two hands at once? This is never going to work. then things begin to align by degrees. The learning happens for itself because you are actioning these things. You're actioning, you're not just, I think I've used it before in one of our discussions. Heard it from a movie. I don't know if it's from the Bible or what it's from, but it's as you pray, as you have faith and trust in the process, move your feet, meaning to keep going. Don't just wait and try to manifest your your destiny. It's not going to work like that. Like you said at the beginning, there was an injection, a pill we could take to override all these other laws and just fully just one up everything, be essentially godly, so to speak, and I'm above all, that kind of thing. Yeah, but that's not the way. And that's the beauty. It's that back to that thing of the whole, that sort of cliche phrase of, it's the journey, not the destination. And part of this journey is those learnings that we have. And there was something I wanted to just finish with, that there was a guy, I don't know what happened to his YouTube, his channel was called Uplifting Humanity. He fully just disappeared. He was sharing a lot of these similar conversations to what we're having now, and you said exactly what he said in this little phrase is exactly what you were discussing there, mate. And that is that how can you be at home on this planet, in this realm, in this beautiful world, if you're not at home in yourself? So you got to feel at home in yourself. And most of us, I can speak from experience, if you're there emotionally eating, feeling miserable, you're addicted to some vice, not from your own doing, but from the world you live in, and now you've become a slave to that, you're not truly at home. You're ultimately a slave to yourself. There's no other better way to put it. And we want to free ourselves from these chains, and understanding the energetics and how the food, essential oils, and these things can help serve us. I think that would be a beautiful segue into the next section, around like what these things are actually doing on an energetic level, and how it's not just, it's the calories, or it's because it's from a tree. Like, yes, that's on a physical level what it is, but what's happening behind the curtain there that is creating this beautiful thing, that's this beautiful gift of nature, again, that is saying, here, I've made this for you. I'm here to help you realign with your true self.
Yeah, and I hope that guy on YouTube took down his channel by choice. I hope they didn't get to him and take him out for speaking too much truth.
I hope so. All I know is his videos are on a database on a drive, and I've downloaded every one of his videos and saved them on 3 hard drives. So I've been thinking of maybe it re-uploading, because profound stuff, man. That's all I got to say.
Yeah. Yeah, it's powerful. And unfortunately, a lot of times in our incoherent world, that stuff gets buried and people get punished for speaking the truth like that. But all we can do is really share our experience, and that's what we're doing. But I think, let's segue this conversation into maybe some more specifics and some more practical stuff, maybe for the audience, and kind of pull together our experiences and our knowledge with different things like oils and essences and herbs and things of that sort.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that, especially with the oils you found in Egypt, and especially coming from the other, every health food store you go to now, you can buy an essential oil. But like, are all essential oils created equal? It's like with the whole calorie thing. Oh, well, there's more calories in an average apple, than there is in Diet Coke. Well, anyone with common sense will just... you're not going to convince me to drink Diet Coke, mate.
Oh my gosh, that's such a great analogy with the calories and the quality of the calories, because that's exactly what it is. Like, I never gravitated towards essential oils living in the States.
Yeah.
Because I never noticed anything happen with them. Even the good ones, like the quote super high end ones like doTERRA and Living Well, I think is the other one.
Young Living, yeah.
I just never was drawn to them until I went to Egypt, and we went to this place where they produce their own oils, and there's a lot of them that you can't even get here in the States because they're native to lands like Egypt.
Wow.
But they let us put those on, and I swear I've never felt so balanced in my life.
Wow.
And that was one of those aha moments for me, like kind of like with the calories, that wow, what we're getting in the Western world, it's not even in the same arena as what they have in other places or what the ancients would have produced.
Yeah.
Because the true essential oils, they're so pure and so powerful, like a tiny little drop, and you can feel the difference. You can feel the energy, because that's what it's doing. Just like we've talked about in this conversation, it's entraining the body to a higher coherence. And the way that I understand, at least for these oils, the way that they're working is they're almost acting as an antenna and pulling down higher spiritual energy into the body, and also pulling up energy from the earth. So it's creating almost like this balanced vortex, this flow of energy coming into your body, and that energy flows to wherever is kind of imbalanced. So I bought the whole spectrum of 22 different oils, and there's oils that correspond to all of the chakras in the physical body. There's oils that correspond to the higher spiritual chakras, and they'll have very different purposes. They all have a different essence, a different signature, different information and energy that they're pulling into the body. And at this point, it's like I kind of just know intuitively what my body wants, when it wants it, for what purposes. Like if I'm going through a very emotional phase in my life where I feel like I'm purging a lot of emotions and balancing out like that, I'll feel drawn to one or two very specific oils for a long period of time before moving on. So it's very interesting, and it's like I don't want people to get the idea like this is the magic pill that's gonna fix you. It's like anything else. It's something to incorporate into your life and your routine, and to use it to support you, because ultimately it's you who will bring balance to yourself. But these things are so powerful, these plant essences, that they could support us in a really amazing way. So I know you have a very deep knowledge of herbology, and I know in Australia you guys pronounce the H a little bit more than we do here in the States. So herbs, same thing. But I would love to kind of hear how you would tie this in to the conversation of oils and overall this bigger picture of what is it doing on a deeper emotional or energetic level.
Well, I think there's something you said that I just want to reemphasize, and that these oils, they're high concentrations of a plant, of a flower, of a root, whatever it is. Generally it's flowers and plants. It's highly concentrated, and they're usually diluted in a carrier oil, right? Some will be 100%, but typically it'll be in a carrier oil so you can spread it. And these plants, I've only seen a few people do like objectively explain it in a really, and you explain it really well there about how these are helping you, but also how they're helpers. They're not the quick fix pill. It's not just I'm going to take these oils, and that's really what I was trying to say at the beginning. Is I meet people that say, well, no, my health is fine because I put doTERRA or Young Living oil on every morning, but then they're eating like ham sandwiches and coffee and whatnot. And you go, yeah, mate, that's not going to cut it, because you're not even aligned the basics of your physical being with nature. You got to do that. And these are amazing tools. And someone who is, you said flower essences, plant essences, is bark. Bark's flower essences. A lot of people are probably aware of this brand, Bark's Flower Essences. It's like it's a vial with like a yellow blue label, I think. And I think there's 12 or 15 flower essences he has in that original formula. And Bach was someone that he could go into nature and he could touch a plant, and he could tell. He would close his eyes and he would touch the plant, and he would know exactly how this plant affected the body. And we've seen through my teacher, Dr. Morse, there's another plant from the yarrow species called moonshine yarrow is what I would say like the street term. I don't know what the Latin term for it is. I'm not that well versed in the Latin definitions of these plants, but moonshine yarrow, it's a type of yarrow that only flowers in moonlight, from my knowledge. And this was used in the Oklahoma bombing. People that were bomb victims, trauma victims, and they would take moonshine yarrow tincture, which was again a concentration, a concentration compacts frequency of this plant, and it would calm their nervous system down. It would regulate their nervous system. And I would say that a lot of these things are going to be quite hard to really intellectually explain, because coming out of an intellectually governed world, we're coming into a world now of more awareness. And what I would call, to echo Rudolf Steiner on this, is wisdom. Is there's a wisdom that's going to be reintroduced to the human species that we have. I view them as candles. We have these candles in our energetic space in our body that have been snuffed out because we've got other things doing things for us. You don't need to know how to navigate yourself. Use Google Maps, use Apple Maps. You don't need to know how to do this. Use this, use that. Then those frequencies and abilities, it is seriously funny, but at the same time, it's very apparent. My mom's a teacher. She has students trying to swipe a book as if it's an iPad. I'm not even kidding. They don't know how to turn paper. I grew up sitting on my mum's lap with a big book reading me. I'll turn the pages myself. Most of us in our 20s and 30s and 40s, and anyone below 20 probably doesn't relate as much. You'd play with the cassette tapes. You'd pull the cassette out and ruin the cassette. We had a more tangible reality because we were connected. And I would say once we connect back with nature, we will have these, what I would call innate abilities, come back to be reinstilled within us. And that book I mentioned before, Secret Life of Plants, I would encourage anyone to read it or listen to it. A lot of the people in that book were Western intellectuals. They were scientists with an intellectual background that could not help but put the intellectual prejudices aside, because what they were witnessing with the frequency of plants was so, for lack of a better phrase, unexpected, was so not what they would expect to see. They couldn't really, other than just state the observation they made. And that was how they grew, how they responded to people, how they responded to environments, and how sensitive they were. And now we see, understanding herbology, we see the traditional use of herbs, where we've got herbology used for thousands of years across many different cultures. And it's kind of funny because in the modern world, in the Western world, they have the audacity to say that that's alternative, and yet Western medicine has been around for, let's be generous and say, a few hundred years, versus a few thousand, if not tens of thousands of years across these other cultures, Native Americans, Paleolithic people in Europe. You've got a lot of different cultures, African cultures, Asian cultures, that have used herbs to assist the body's rebuilding. Again, these nature's helpers. You've got these assistants from nature. And so what I see as essential oils is literally a compact version of this plant, taking the vibrational frequency, because again, everything, even this mug, this ceramic mug, it'll be, if I were to connect the right probes and the right way to measure it, there'll be a frequency pulse to this mug. My microphone has a frequency pulse. The steel base that it sits on has a frequency. My laptop has crystals in it. If it didn't have crystals, it would not turn on. Even though a lot of them nowadays are synthesized, they still have to have mineral composition. You've got to have a crystal compound. So this whole woohoo thing around essential oils and crystals, I'll extend it to crystals, but there's a lot. I was like you, Chad. I was not really into them. I just saw no real practice of using them. Because I think the quality as well, the way they produce them, the way they're putting them into a bottle and selling them to you as a customer as just a product, they're missing that interconnected relationship through nature that is ultimately diluting their purpose. And also, I think people not knowing, I think some of these frequencies as well, someone may not notice if they've got too many other stimulant frequencies in their life. If you're someone reliant on, let's say, some like pharmaceutical uppers, you got caffeine, you got junk food, I'll be very surprised if you were to put an essential oil, a high quality essential oil on that individual, and they would really notice much. They got too much stagnation. I use the analogy of try to hear the flute note through the doof music, the drum and bass. You're not going to hear it. Turn down the bass, you'll start to hear that flute note coming through. And I use that analogy with music because I think music is another gateway to unlocking other states of consciousness where we could be like Bach, we could be like Rudolf Steiner, and go and touch a plant and just know exactly what it would do without intellectual justification. You know, I think that to me is one of the most exciting things of this path. Is people wonder, who am I? I have clients ask me, who am I going to be? I'm going to lose who I am. What if I lose? you're going to gain so much more than you'll lose. It's not even funny. And I know I haven't even gained half of what I know will come, because that level of awareness, that wisdom that innately I really feel we've had robbed from us. We've had those candles snuffed out. We've burnt both candles from both ends. Some of us, we got to bring those candles back in. We got to light each other's torches. We've got to, this awakening's got to happen within, and that awareness will come back. And you, I think, my opinion on this would be that because you've lived in this fruit lifestyle, you were in the right place at the right time where you were reciprocative to that, and then you felt it. And you were already someone like me who once upon a time, and even before, was like, yeah, I don't really look at essential oils as doing much. Don't really get that. But just to echo Dr. Morse on this, some people are so weak that we got to use cooked fruits or some slower ways to get their body in a certain way, to the point where even essential oils just, is too much energy, too many energetic frequencies going on for them, that it's too much, because these are seriously powerful stuff at the end of the day in terms of energetics, and you can measure high quality. I would be really curious to see what the frequency of those oils are compared to something like doTERRA or a Young Living. I would say they would be on a different scale, in a different book.
Yeah, that's my sense. And yeah, what you brought up with the Rudolf Steiners and the people who can just put their hand on a plant and know exactly what it does to the body, like, I know that sounds out there in our Western world, but that's such a real phenomenon.
Yeah.
And we've all got it in us. We're all capable of that. And we just got to, like you said, clear out the system and find that it's always, because there's just too much static. There's too much noise. Too much static.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that even just, I'm kind of in a place like you, like I probably haven't even unlocked half of what I'm capable of, but already I'm kind of at a place where I can put my hand like on a food or a plant, and I might not be able to tell like what it does medicinally in the body, but I can tell like, yeah, this is good for my body and this is supportive, or absolutely not.
Yeah.
And even like fabrics, that's been another thing that
Oh,
I
yeah,
replaced my whole wardrobe with organic cotton only. Like I threw out the polyester because I would put my hand on the polyester and it just felt gross, like synthetic, chemical, manufactured. So yeah, it doesn't take long before you start to notice these abilities start to kick back in. And a lot of it has to do with, yes, the foundation of like the fruit lifestyle and clean eating, clean living, but also these other things, the herbs and the essential oils that could support us. Because you're right, the oils in particular, they are carrying like the pure essence of the plant. I think it's something like it takes hundreds of roses to make one drop of rose oil. So it's absolutely precious, but it's carrying the coherence of hundreds of roses in one drop. And that's been one of my favorites. It's like one or two drops in my bath water, and you could feel your whole emotional field like soften.
Yep.
And anything that you need to process, it like comes up very easily. You don't get sucked into it and collapse under the weight.
Wow.
It just like softens you up, and just one or two drops of that pure essence, that pure energy is enough to do that. So these things they're amazing, but like we keep saying, they're not the magic pill, the do all, because at the end of the day, they're meant to be a support system, and they must complement a foundational lifestyle. And I love the music analogy that you brought up, that you can't hear the flute over the noise of the other instruments, because that's exactly what it is. Because there's a lot of people who are getting into the more natural health these days, which is awesome. It's great to see. But it's like they'll go to the health food store and buy the generic essential oil or the herbal blend, and then stack that on top of a diet that's still made up of fast food and surrounding themselves with toxic people, and just like there's so much incoherence and so much static that's interfering. You're not at a place where you're, I think, refined enough. You're not like that sensitive antenna that can pick up the effects of things like plants and oils and essences.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, but I would love to hear, now that we've covered the oils, some of your experiences maybe with specific herbs, or how you approach that with clients.
Mm-hmm.
Are you starting them on the foundation of how they live their life and how they eat, and then building the herbal protocol on top of that, or are you doing it simultaneously? Like, kind of give us an idea of how people might approach that in their life to use it in a very supportive way.
Yeah, and I like that. It's a good segue. And I wanted before I kick in with that, there's one thing I just wanted to say on the world we live in being very intellectually governed. Is they will make mockery out of wisdom. There'll be this comedic mockery of abilities that we actually have had and have proven to have. And I want to preface as well that Rudolf Steiner was a heavy intellectual. He was not. Even the way he writes, oftentimes is too intellectual. He was a very intellectual person. He's a highly respected intellectual person. So he had a very heavy intellectual mind. That's how his book Knowledge of Higher Worlds has shown you how to get away from the intellect, because he himself was a slave to it. Because the intellectual mind is absolutely a necessity, but it can bind you, man. It can bind you so hard because you're just lost in ideas, spinning somewhere with this idea, this idea. They're just ideas. That ability to touch a plant and feel what it's going to do, the fact that you can sit and run a bath, and just by adding that high quality rose oil, you feel it helping move your emotions. And I had to write that down, man, because I've noticed that when I have baths, and I've noticed that if I'm in a stuck way, I notice if I go and sit in a bath, I'll want to immediately start distracting myself by reading something, doing something on my phone. I've got to reply to a client, got to do this. No, you don't. You're going to be in the bath, and you're going to move through whatever you need to move through, mate. And it's interesting that in biblical documents, and even now, what is baptism? It's with water. There's like this rebirth. In the Essene Gospel of Peace, baptism was even stated by Jesus in that book, in those scriptures. It's not just from the outside, it's from the inside. And what are fruits carrying? Water, electrical water. They're carrying most fruits, even a banana is 80% water or something. And that's not a hydrating fruit, quote unquote, to what most people would regard as hydrating. And yet majority of it, just like the planet's majority water. And so we see the carrier of water is ultimately a foundation of energetic transferal, of transmutation of energy through water. Without water, it's just going to be a crusted, decaying mess. And I just wanted to make that point too, that people, you may notice, and I was someone that had this happen, you feel an old idea become threatened by a new one. I think Socrates had this line, there's no... the sign of an intelligent mind is the ability to entertain an idea without agreeing with it. So this is an amazing thing to have, to listen. And it's a hard one for me, but I need to listen to whatever comes my way. And what will happen is you'll begin to find that you'll just start to know. There won't be you're not going to wait on a study. You don't need to wait on a study. Animals don't wait on studies to do things. They don't wait. They can be helpful. But I honestly, I could not care less. I think it's amazing with what we discover, with what humanity has done. But I could not care at all about, you could show me a million studies showing me this, that, and the other. But you're not going to get me to eat an animal. It's just not going to happen. You're not going to get me to do certain things, and that's my choice, and I don't rely on that. And I really hope that people glean from this. It's not to say, hey, if you're eating meat, you're a bad person. I'm not saying this at all. I'm saying that to find that power within yourself, that you will begin to give yourself the answers, because we rely too much on the external. We rely too much on the intellectual of what's this intellectual bit of data? What's this going to do for me? And now I'm going to change. It's like we're helpless children waiting for the direction of our parents to be told what to do, when actually we know what to do. And that's why it's a regaining of power. And to segue that into herbs, I always look at the individual with where they are at on a physical level, what they've come to me for. And most physical human bodies are pretty low functioning. I've a few clients at the moment who have got so-called cancers and organs removed. So we got to navigate things differently for that. And if, I've got a client right now who doesn't have a gallbladder, so that means their lymphatic system is heavily compromised. They don't have, their liver is compromised because the gallbladder works with the liver. We've got a few things going on there. So straight off the bat, I'm going to turn to herbology and I'm going to look at the herbs that have historically been used to assist liver function, gallbladder function. And hopefully in this individual, if they go far enough, that they'll be able to regrow their gallbladder. We already know in this day and age that people on a standard diet will rebuild their liver every, I think it's 7 years. That's without changing your diet. So it's not a far stretch to know that your body will regenerate itself. But you need the environment, you need the time, you need patience in that. The same way, Chad, you regrew damage in your jawbone. It didn't heal properly from dental work. I just had a client recently who was diagnosed 3 months to live and then 1 month to live with prostate cancer, and they had said it was metastasizing into his bones, which was a fancy way of saying he was so acidic that his bones were leaching calcium to buffer. Calcium's an alkaline principle. It's trying to buffer that acidic chemistry. And guess what? I got him on the lowest quality grapes because we were out of grapes in this country. It was mid to end last year, September of last year, October, and we got him on imported red American grapes. Plus, I got him on 5 herbs. One was horsetail. In herbology, this is known to be high in silica. Silica is an amazing component for building bone matrix or teeth matrix, teeth and bones. And it's people always focus on calcium. There's other principles as well. Silica is one of them. And I got him on horsetail, a few other nerve herbs. I think it was Damiana herb for nerve function and reproductive health, horsetail herb, juniper berries, and parsley. And I think I also had him on gotu kola for blood circulation. I think that was it from memory. It was a single herbs, organic or wildcrafted. And he just did a grape diet, and 10 and a half weeks later, we have the x-ray proof. His bones had around 70 to 80% regenerated from being hollow in his hips.
Wow.
And that was on low quality grapes. So, this is what astounds me with nature, is that even though those herbs had been processed, shipped, even though those grapes had been grown in California or Florida, wherever they were grown, or in Mexico, they could have been from Mexico. It's usually Mexico or the US is what we get. With gas, they get gassed when they come into the country, and then they get put on the shelves, sitting there for how long? You then buy them, you wash them. They still have the ability to heal you.
Not to mention the pesticides.
Exactly. So you've got the sprays, the modification, the seeds have been removed, all this stuff, and yet at the end of the day, there's still some part of it that is still that horsetail herb. There is still some part of it that is still that grape. So it makes me question: what if it was straight off the tree? What if he picked the horsetail himself? Could have he regenerated his bones in a week? I don't know.
Probably.
You know what I mean? Like, because as you said, when you went to Egypt, you were saying the frequency, you wouldn't even consider essential oils back in the US. The same way with me here, I kind of look at them and go, oh yeah, it smells nice, but I don't really see any other way to use them. I see herbs, wow, different story. You go to Egypt, this is not even in the same category, it's not even the same league. And that was an eye-opener for me, another big one that just hit me again, like, wow, this individual's body regenerated so swiftly in that area. Yes, there was some weight loss and these other things and a lot of external pressures, but he did solidly 10 and a half weeks, and the x-rays, they now have said that 70% of his disease is gone. They gave him 1 month to live, mind you, as well.
That's incredible.
They throw around 3 months, 1 month, and they've now said again where he's at now, despite his bones still being strong, he's still building his weight back, but they're now saying, oh, well, yes, around 70% of the disease is gone because you took our treatment, even though he never took his treatment. He re-emphasized that to them. I didn't do that. And so anyway, it's just showing that nature, outside of, we got to understand the electromagnetic principles of the grape, the ability of the herbs, that they target certain points. So that's what Bach knew. Bach knew that when he felt that plant, if he got a bunch of different flower petals, put him in a bathtub, I believe there was documentation of him getting like rape victims, or the people that were sexually abused, putting them in, a female specifically, putting them in bath water that had, it's funny you say that, with petals of roses and other flowers, calendula, Hypericum flowers. These in anthroposophy are very highly used for moving energy and specifically stagnant emotional energy from traumas and things like this, and put them in the bath water, and they would shift and move through trauma and grief like that. They would shift through these things in a way that you just got to stand back and go, wow, what is nature doing?
Yeah. Wow. That's incredible. And I think things like that, they really baffle like the medical mind. Those doctors must be absolutely floored. And
Yeah.
I think it really goes back to what you were saying earlier about the intellect versus experience and
Yeah.
intuition.
Yeah.
And I know for me, I used to be very much in the intellect. Like I wanted all the
Same.
research and the published studies.
Same.
Even when I first got into health, I was like, show me the proof, show me the studies. Um,
Same.
I would only want to listen to experts who had all the credentials and the degrees, and then now I couldn't care less about any of that stuff. It's like if I'm going to someone for help, I don't care what degrees you have. I don't care if you've
Yeah.
got all the PhDs. Like, what have you experienced in life? Have you lived it? Have you moved through it? Like, what fruit are you producing in your life right now that would tell me that you're somebody who I would want to support me in my journey? And that's what I look for, and that's what you're doing for people is once you see what's possible and you have these amazing healing experiences on something as simple as grapes, it's like that's for a lot of people, I think, the moment where something clicks, like your eyes open and you're like, wow,
Yeah.
what we've been told, the amount that we've been taught to, make things overly complex, it doesn't make any sense. It's way more simple than we think. And just that experience alone is enough to really change something. And I think that's where I'm moving much more into my intuition and direct experience to validate things. And I think that's where humanity is headed too. And it really goes back to those spiritual principles of the masculine and the feminine, and how we have become so dominant in the masculine side of the intellectual mind, and we've lost the intuition, the creativity, the artistic abilities, the musical abilities.
Oh, it's so
All
true.
of that is we're coming back into balance, and we're using nature to help bring us into balance in these really remarkable ways.
And isn't it interesting that most schools will study the Greeks, Socrates, Aristotle, Plato, and there's a great quote that just from Socrates, I believe it's Socrates or Aristotle, that encapsulates what you said, and that there's no better fact than a fact experienced from your own life. And,
Bingo.
and there's also these other premises that these people, as a bare minimum, were living on plants, and yet you have these people that are intellectuals now that are inspired by the Greeks that are on these whatever diets and trying to justify this, that. They're not objectively looking at laws of nature. These Greeks they created logic for one, but they're also looking at laws of nature, herbology, what's nature doing, how's nature working, using observed science being the truest form of science. I'm going to observe my way in whichever direction it goes. I'm not going to have a preconceived outcome. And I love that you made that point there, Chad, because I myself, being someone that started in cooked vegan food like 10, 11 years ago, I was listening to Dr. Michael Greger. I'm reading PubMed studies all the time. I believe there's over 2,000 studies published there a day. So it's already, from that point, you're going to be confused forever, because you're going to see this, that, and then it's going to change. I remember seeing a video of his that he did. One moment, avocado's not good, then it's good. Blueberries were good, but they were better if you did this. It's just so much intellectual nonsense. And it's cool when you come out of that, because people may think, oh, well, you're just two guys who've never cared for that, or you don't consider good research. No, good research is great, but what we're talking about is the limitations of the intellectual mind, and that there's an awareness that has to come back in, and intellect objectively snuffs out a wisdom and awareness. And Rudolf Steiner, who himself was an intellectual, he covered everything from biodynamic organics. That's essentially the highest way of growing food other than wild foraging, above organic food. He created the seasonal planting charts. You see them with the big circles, rings with the different animal astrological principles of planting. Education through Steiner schools. I myself went through the Steiner school system. My mum's a Steiner teacher. I've read a bunch of Steiner's work since graduating. This man he got information from the Greeks, the Mesopotamians, Egyptians. He funneled them into one. And he just put them in one lane. And this guy had the ability to see these things, though being an intellectual. So he mastered both. And again, what's the word that comes up in chemistry? Homeostasis, balance. We got to have a balance of the two, because if we were pure wisdom, I doubt we would ever speak. We'd probably just be like constantly just telepathically speaking.
Yeah, telepathy.
And I think telepathy was without a doubt a thing. I think that has been a part of us again that is gone. There's the same way that certain native cultures will still be able to navigate by the stars. They'll still be able to navigate by seeing tracks on the ground. We've got a lot there that there is lost, and I think that's a beautiful rounding off of what we've sort of encapsulated here, Chad, is bringing back this awareness through the change of frequency and what we do. And you might be someone who's is eating a whatever lifestyle, doesn't really have that awareness around your food yet, but you have awareness around essential oils or plants or crystals. You might have a lot of plants in your room and notice, oh wow, I sleep way better now having plants in my room than I did before. There's a change there. And now that's going to shift you into changing your lifestyle with your diet. And you may be someone that's in the diet and is now saying, maybe I'll look at some herbs to assist my body. Maybe there's some essential oils or some things that could help. But also outside of that is knowing that these things are helping your wisdom to be unlocked again. They're helping you to step forth into the next phase of human existence, because we're at a point now where humanity was pretty chaotic, but there's a big separation happening. I see this a lot online. People are sick of being led astray. People are sick of not having a real outcome. As you said, Chad, you could have all manner of degrees and PhDs till the cows come home, but do you have any real experience with even dealing with a human being? I have a friend that is a nurse in a state hospital, and he's there supporting patients because a doctor will come in and give them a terminal diagnosis and just walk off as if it's just saying good morning. But you're going to say to someone that they've got some terminal condition when really they don't. They could actually get out of that. Sure, that individual may be pretty far gone, but give it a go. We've seen time and time again terminal patients go to someone like Dr. Morse or Dr. Sebi or anyone that gets them on natural foods, and it's surprising what can happen to these people. They can get out of their problems, but they got to change that physical environment, which is changing the frequency of food that you're consuming, because at the end of the day, the frequency is so much higher in those foods as being the understanding. That's why I don't heavily encourage the idea of calories. I think it's a great baseline, but once we get out of that concept, we're then going into the concept of energetics. What is this food giving me? And you look at Okinawans, right? Objectively, like the longest living people on the planet. They are very physical. They eat, I believe it's 15 to 1700 calories a day. They move their body a lot. I would say if we were to put what they eat into a chronometer with how much movement they have, I would bet my bottom dollar they would be in a calorie deficit based on their expenditure of energy. Because I did that as a hypothetical recently, and I'm on average on a deficit of 400 calories a day based on my exercise and what I do, and I'm totally fine. So there's clearly another element. Energetics is that other element.
Yeah, and I would say that's the spiritual energy. It's the chi, the prana that all these traditions have talked about.
Yeah.
That is ultimately sustaining the body, the breath, really. It's the energy that comes in through breath. And I think the more refined you become, the more your body starts to convert other sources of electromagnetic energy from the sun, infrared. It uses the structured water. I know there's a lot of research coming out now about how infrared light interfaces with the structured water in the body to actually propel the blood and generate a source of energy. So I think, you've you've hit it on the head, that food is not everything, that we're not meant to get all of our energy expenditure from calories through our food. That's very much like, it's like a gas guzzling car. You just, what goes in goes out, and it's just this endless cycle of you can never get enough.
Yeah.
And I think we're moving towards an age where we're going to recognize that the human body is so much more intelligent and capable and resilient than we have ever known. But it starts again with clearing yourself out, removing the static from the infrastructure of your body. And that's really the process, and that's the journey. And I think, just to kind of wrap this up, I know how difficult change can be for everyone out there. It's scary. The mind will give you every single reason not to change. But I think as you and I and so many others are continually experiencing, Jake, is we don't know what we haven't experienced, and we don't even realize how good things can get. And that's what really inspires me and instills a sense of optimism for the future, both personally and collectively as a species. So do you have anything else that you'd like to wrap up on or add before we close out?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, if you're someone that's experienced a point of suffering for a long period of time, and this has become normal for you, and you don't know any different, as Chad said, you can't know what you don't know. And imagine and there may be someone listening who grew up in a family of, for lack of a better phrase, obese people that are physically unhealthy, that have grown up just going to fast food chains and didn't know any different. For one, that this isn't your fault, but also this isn't just how things are meant to be. Because I grew up going to school with kids that would sit on the sidelines, that were obese. They were objectively very physical bodies were very unwell, and they couldn't move. They couldn't partake in the movement of what we were doing. They had no concept of being a 12-year-old running around kicking a ball. That for them was a mere vision. That's all it was. And that's really sad, because a lot of these things in individuals is just an idea. It's like watching a movie. It's like I'm watching rewatching Lord of the Rings at the moment, and you're in this world. You go into this other world, Middle Earth. It's cool. It's wow, but that's not reality. It's a story. So for them, it's ultimately a story, and it really shouldn't be. And it's really sad that most humans, I myself being one of them, experience most of our reality from a point of suffering, and it doesn't have to be that way. And I really think that humanity is on a path to a point where we can be at a baseline where any form of suffering is a myth. It becomes a legend, where it's like, wow, did you know that we would die at this age? Did you know that we had these things called diseases? What, really? How? Because we were eating this, we were doing that. What? Why would you do that? What? But nature's giving you this. Nature's telling you that. You have this awareness. That to me is so inspiring and so awe-inspiring, that the wonder of what could be it makes me excited, like a kid going to a candy store. That would have been me back in the day. It would have been the Lego aisle at the shop. It wouldn't have been a candy shop. It would have been Lego for sure. But that level of excitement, that childlike excitement, that's what I feel when I see where humanity can go. And I know we are on that path. And join us on that path. Join Chad and myself on that path by letting go of the shackles of our self-created enslavement, ultimately, to these things of taking away our power, making us think that we don't know something, that we've got to wait for some professional to tell us, to give us the okay. That clearly there have been people, and the Egyptians being one of them, a group of people that knew something greater. Even now, with our intellectual capabilities, we've got no idea how to recreate the pyramids in any way, shape, or form. We're absolutely clueless to that. And yet we somehow are at the highest degree of human evolution. If we were, we would be recreating pyramids like no tomorrow. And even if it was for a vain reason, even if it was just for a vain, here, we build a pyramid, check it out. So I hope people can glean from this conversation we've had that getting your power back happens by degrees, like we said, and one of them is aligning with laws of nature, and then allowing the rest, and allowing these things, whichever angle you're coming in from, to have these unlocks, get these keys to these other aspects of awareness. Because like Chad said, coming from more of a Western background, intellectual background. In a previous video, we discussed in a modern Catholic setting, and then coming out of that and going, wait a minute, things aren't quite as they seem. I grew up very atheist, so there's a lot there that I had to change and shift and see, wow, there are things outside of my awareness, my normal intellectual mind, that are apparent. I cannot deny that they are happening. And yeah, I'll just like to finish with that, mate, and to know that if you have been living from a place of suffering, that it doesn't have to be that way, and you can get yourself out of it, because people are getting themselves out of it all the time. I've got myself out of some really big ones. I've helped clients out of this. Chad helps clients out of this. He's helped himself out of that. And this is an uplifting of humanity, ultimately, to, again, what's that baseline going to look like? Where is our potential going to go? And it can only be positive. It can only be good.
Wow. That was so powerful and so well said, brother. Thank you for that uplifting message, and I hope that everyone listening to this leaves with some sort of inspiration or feeling of empowerment, that you could do this, that you got this.
Yeah.
That this doesn't have to be a continuation of your story, that there is a different way, and that there are people, there are a huge community of people doing this today, and that we're here for you. And so if part of this resonated or it sparks some kind of remembrance in you, we would love to hear from you. It means a lot to hear your feedback and to connect with you guys. Jake and I are both here to support you, so reach out and start a conversation, and we would love to learn from your experiences too, because the things that you've experienced are one of a kind, and they are invaluable, and we're all here to learn from each other. So with that, we just want to thank you for taking the time to listen and taking the time to better yourself and contribute to the betterment of this world and of humankind. So with that, we're going to sign off. We'll be back soon with more. Like Jake said, we're hoping to make this a regular thing.
Yeah, for sure.
If you have any video or podcast ideas, we'd also love to hear any feedback or recommendations of topics of discussion that you guys might want. So with that, thank you so much. Until next time, we'll see you soon.
See ya.